Evening or good afternoon. As chair of the Energy Committee, I'm declaring that an emergency exists and I'm invoking the provisions of RSA 91-2A3B. Federal, state, and local officials have determined that gatherings of 10 or more people pose a substantial risk to our community in its continuing efforts to combat the spread of COVID-19. In concurring with their determination, I also find that this meeting is imperative to the continued operation of town government and services, which are vital to public safety and confidence during this emergency. As such, this meeting will be conducted without a quorum of this body physically present in the same location. At this time, I also welcome members of the public accessing this meeting remotely. Even though this meeting is being conducted in a unique manner under unusual circumstances, the usual rules of conduct and decorum apply. So please raise your hand if you have a question. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their name, also please state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting. Okay, so I'm Renee, chair of the committee.
I'm Cliff Sinnott.
Lou Hitchroat. No one in the room with me. I'm going to, as advice from Bob, I'm going to turn off my video because my internet connection is not very good. So I will keep on with audio, but I will get rid of video.
There you are. Okay, look at that. He's at Doc Martin's house all of a sudden.
That's right.
Okay, keep going. Next.
I'm Amy Farnham. I'm outside. Is that allowed?
Yes.
Okay, well, there are other people outside, but they're not right here.
Okay.
And I forgot to say, there's no one with me. This is Cliff.
This is Robin, and I told you I would probably be dialing in from Nebraska, but I pushed it back to next week because all the pools open next week and I need some exercise. And so I'm here at home, and there might be one other person that comes home during the meeting, but not around right now.
Okay, thank you.
I might wander outside.
Hi, this is Brianna Brand. I am having a similar issue to Lou with the video, so I'm going to keep that off to try and get a better internet connection.
Dave Sharples, town planner. I'm in my office by myself.
Oh, there you are. I didn't even see you, Dave. Hi.
And Rustine, town manager, and I'm in my office and I'm by myself as well.
Okay, and I see Natasha Stoppel, but she is what, the filming crew?
Believe so, yes.
Yes, I'm with Exeter TV.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't know if I count you in our meeting or not, but I'm writing your name down. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming, taking some time out of the day here. The first up, could I have an approval of our previous minutes, which I sent out to you in draft form?
I move to approve the minutes.
So moved.
All right. Check.
Seconded.
Thank you. All right, so the bulk of this meeting is going to be about community choice power. Cliff and Lou have attended a 3 or 4 hour summit the few days ago, and we are on the agenda for the select board on June 15th to present about it. So take it away, guys. What do you got?
Cliff, did you get the two-pager that you wrote out to everyone, or is it just you and I who've seen it?
Just you and I who've seen it. Sorry about that. I didn't think there was enough time. I can quickly review what's in that. This is what we had, Lou and I had been working on to send to the selectmen in preparation for of the thing that I wrote up a few months ago about what was in Senate Bill 286, and the thing that Lou wrote our last meeting, which summarizes what community power itself is. And so we've merged those two things together and then added a final section that says, what are the next things to do for the town? Or what would we recommend as the Energy Committee? And that's probably the thing we want to cover today to make sure that we are in agreement about what we think is the things that we should be suggesting to the selectmen at this point. Does that sound right, Lou?
Yeah, I think one of the questions we had is about forming a team, which would be perhaps a subcommittee of the energy. Basically, a committee whose charge was to look into the viability of community power.
Right.
So,
I
think we have to decide whether that's something that should be done.
Right. And the main question, I think, definitely will be something that should be done. The question is it timely to do it now, or alternatively, should we wait till it's a little clearer from what's happening with the formation of community power in New Hampshire or any kind of regional grouping? I sort of can go either way, but basically the situation right now is, so the law was passed in 2019. Basically what it lays out, or it modifies the existing law that authorized community aggregation to make it more realistic. It was not realistic in its original form because it was set up so that a community who developed a community aggregation program, that program had to be set up so that individual customers had to decide to join, and essentially that would happen one at a time. And it just never was realistic to create the critical mass that a single town or even a group of towns would need to negotiate effectively for purchasing electricity from whatever source. This law changed that so that the default, and I think Russ and Dave, you know this already, the default becomes that people are automatically signed up essentially for the community power aggregation program unless they say, no, I don't want to. And the law is pretty careful about that, in that you have to make it clear to people in a physical mailing and other ways of notification that says this is happening, and just send back this postcard if you don't want to join. But it does create this sort of automatic process where someone would be signed on to the towns or the municipalities' community power program by default. And that's the key change. It made that the default rather than the other way around. And the general sense is that that's going to make this much more realistic and feasible to work. And so that's why there's quite a bit of kind of excitement about it. The way the process is set up, if a town decides they want to start an aggregation, the selectmen have to agree to form an aggregation committee, and that committee has to prepare a plan. And that plan is pretty detailed. And I think at this point, nobody in the state could prepare such a plan, because I don't think there's enough known about how all of this stuff is going to work. So it might be timely to establish the committee to get started on the plan, but I don't think, my sense is that things are not clear enough yet about who's going to be doing what. For example, is there going to be this statewide organization that we could sort of plug into and get these aggregation services from, and to go forward? There's still a lot unknown. but it still might be reasonable to get started on it. I'll pause.
Yeah, I think I see the committee as being kind of an investigatory committee, which would have the requirement to be looking into all of this over time.
Right.
It seems to me the more information we can gather, the better, and there's got to be some entity that is responsible for gathering that information. So maybe that's the reason for putting together a committee. Now, there is another thing that I was just thinking about, and Renee has been in touch with how many towns now, Renee? 8 or 9 towns that are interested in.
No, not that many. I can read them out here. So what I did is one of my action items for last month was to send out an email to various other energy committees and see who's interested in being in a discovery phase with us, so that maybe we all ask Unitil the same question once instead of each town asking individually. So replying affirmatively to my email was Atkinson, Rye, Newmarket, Stratham. And then Dover is putting it on their energy committee agenda, which was like 2 months out, so they weren't quite sure, but they have interest in it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If Dover goes in plus this, that's 6. And those are the ones that replied. I also put it out to all these other people, including Concord. And just as us, they need to put it on the agenda, wait for the meeting, have the meeting, and then get back to us. So I consider that all of this is like in a pre-phase, to like what you were saying, Cliff, a pre-phase, so that when we do go to the select board on June 15th, we say we're just introducing this. We're in a pre-phase. We're forming like a pre-committee to investigate it. Very non-committal. The whole thing is non-committal at this moment.
So in a sense, it's like creating the aggregation committee, but not starting the planning process, something like that, or maybe not. Yeah. Or maybe we just use the existing energy committee as the discovery body, but. And that's what. So let me read what Lou and I have come up with as the next steps of where we go from here, and then we can discuss whether the committee agrees. Step one is the Exeter Energy Committee should continue to closely monitor developments in the state and region regarding the formation of community power aggregations. Including following the PUC rulemaking. That's one of the things that hasn't happened yet at the state level. The development of the statewide CPNH organization and any developments regionally. So that's step one. Continue to just monitor and investigate. And maybe it needs to say investigate. Second is the Energy Committee should explore the formation of a CPA for Exeter, including identifying the steps, responsibilities, costs, and benefits, and report back to the Board of Selectmen in a timely manner with recommendations. The third is working with the Rockingham Planning Commission, investigate and stay informed on any initiative to pursue a regional CPA. And this is a little different than what you were doing, Renee. So we might need to have what you're doing kind of fit into this or integrate into that or have a separate one. And then lastly, if the Energy Committee agrees to about moving forward with the CPA and if the Energy Committee recommends moving forward with the CPA and the Select Board agrees, the following steps would initiate the process. And then this is where it gets back to the statute. The first step would be the selectmen form an electric aggregation committee, which could be under the auspices of the Energy Committee or a wholly separate committee. The second step is that committee, which was formed, would develop the electric aggregation plan and hold public hearings on that plan. The third step is when completed and approved by the committee, the select board would submit the plan for final adoption at town meeting. And that's in the statute. And then lastly, the community power aggregation program would be developed as directed by the plan. And that part D is just, a whole lot of unknowns about what would actually be. All the details about creating that plan are, at this point, kind of hard to figure out, especially with the PUC not having done rulemaking yet.
Okay. Can I ask if Russ or Dave want to weigh in at this moment and give your thoughts on feasibilities or processes?
I mean, my take, and Dave can weigh in too, but my take is I think it's a reasonable start. And, one of my suggestions would be to kind of almost form two work groups, maybe a subcommittee of the Energy Committee to work on it, a couple of people spearheading kind of like what you've done to date, and then task someone with meeting with the regional people too, to kind of get both sides of the equation working on at the same time. But I'd be very interested, I've talked about this a few times. I mean, I'm very interested in kind of going through a process of, okay, what does this entail exactly? And what are the pros and cons to it that people see? And I agree with Cliff. I think we're a little ahead of the game, but there's nothing wrong with that. We can, do a little bit of deep dive and find out what the other communities around us know that are interested in this as well, and sort of create maybe an information sharing form on that end, and sort of maybe a natural build of consensus, or maybe, they go through this and go, okay, this is not, this would be a tough sell or whatever the case may be. But those would be my comments so far on it.
What is in the two-pager that Lou and I did was basically, it's kind of like a Q&A. It's first is, what is it? Sort of defines what community power aggregation is. Secondly, it's what's changed in the law that has now makes this a little more viable and interesting. The third is why should you establish one of these? What are the potential benefits? And we didn't spell out disadvantages, but in Lou's piece, he acknowledged that there probably are some disadvantages. We don't even definitely know what they are at this point, but certainly at this point, it's our exploratory work is to find out what they might be. Then the next part is what's happening in New Hampshire now. This is, what's going on sort of at the state level and various communities starting to work on this. And then lastly, where do we go from here? Those recommended steps.
And our next electricity contract is up November 2021. Just as an FYI. So the timing of it seems to be pretty good from that perspective.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So Cliff and Lou, regarding the June 15th Select Board presentation, is it that you're going to read this two-page paper?
No. I think go ahead, Lou.
I think the idea was to give it to them ahead of time, and I think it has to be in their hands by Friday. Is that correct?
Right,
Renee?
Yes.
By Friday afternoon. We give the paper to them ahead of time, and then Cliff and I would just be at the meeting to make a brief presentation.
All right, and are you organized as to who or whatever would make the presentation? I mean, I know it's Zoom, so it's weird. You don't want to talk over each other,
Yeah, we've talked about it. That I think the last thing we said, Lou, right, was that you were going to go through the basics of what community aggregation is, and I was going to talk about what the sort of what's happening in New Hampshire now and where we might go from here. Is that right? Or we could do it the other way around, whatever.
That was what we decided on, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And we'll get together, sometime before Monday to go make a little bit more clear what we're going to say. But right.
All right, good. Make a good showing for the committee, be smooth.
Okay.
Everyone's invited, right? Everyone will attend.
I want to get Russ.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Russ, I had a question for you, which was, if indeed we do form some kind of a subcommittee of the Energy Committee to look into community power, is there someone in the town, either in Public Works or someone who is very familiar with our current process of purchasing power and would be a good person to add to our committee to help us out with things we don't know?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be, let me think about that a little bit. I mean, I think our electricity contract here, emanates out of Public Works. They're the ones, and we use, I think people have heard this before, but we use a broker called UMG. We've used them for a number of years, and they've represented us on electric contracts and so forth. But let me think about if there's someone in particular that would be a resource for you.
Also, one thing to remember is that the aggregation we're talking about here is for retail customers, not for the municipality. That would be in a separate track. You could still continue to do that, and you probably would, but it wouldn't be this. I don't know that these things get mixed together. I don't think they do. This is retail.
Well, that's an interesting point.
Mm-hmm. So commercial and educational, and how does that fit in, like Phillips Exeter Academy or?
I'm not sure. No one's obligated to use it, but what the statute keeps referring to is retail. So I think, for example, businesses and residences would be included, but school districts, the municipality, potentially other institutions that weren't considered retail, perhaps a hospital, I'm not sure, maybe and schools would have their own, potentially could have their own arrangements, or just continue doing what they're doing. I mean, anybody can continue doing what they're doing. They can just opt out of whatever this aggregation comes up with.
So we need to find out the definition of retail.
Yeah.
Lots of things to investigate.
Yeah.
Okay. Are they distinguishing that because likely the cost that we're going to get through community power isn't going to be good enough for someone that's buying it in bulk, like a municipality or a school district? I'm just wondering that. That's my guess.
Yeah, maybe. And it may be that institutions, if you got a great contract, it could be that institutions could plug into it. This is a little bit of the chicken and egg problem with this. Sorry.
Okay. Are you trying to say something, Lou?
No, I'm not. I don't know why my green light went on, but I was not.
Okay. Okay, then any other last minute things on this agenda item, or any other action items I need to note? Good. Okay,
So,
then.
actually, Renee, Lou, why don't we send out, I think I have a couple of more typos to fix on this, but, and anything you had suggested, and send it out to the committee before tomorrow. And if anybody can take a look and.
Yeah, let me look it over again. I looked it over quickly. Let me look it over again, and I'll get back to you either tonight or tomorrow morning if there are any other things, and then we can get it off to the select board. Yeah. Want to get it off to the committee would people have
interest in reviewing it before we send it to the selectmen?
I can review it, but I place my trust in you people who have been watching the progress of it. So, I mean, you can do it, but I think you guys have the say at this point.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. All right. The next thing on our agenda is the EV charging stations, and I really don't have any update on that. I don't know that the second request for proposals went out. They were supposed to go out like mid-June or July, and it's not quite that time yet. You have anything, Brianna, on that?
No, I haven't heard anything else yet either.
Yeah, so I think that's slow. So we'll just kind of move on from that. Next up is the greenhouse gas inventory. And hi, Dave. I went and I spoke with Dave last time, and he said, yes, the intern is still on. So do you have any other comments on that, Dave?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Rachel started with about 2 weeks ago. We did an orientation with UNH with all the fellows. Very, very informative. Very good, well done orientation via Zoom. Rachel officially started June 1st, which was last Monday. And although she can't be here because even though our office is open to employees, UNH is still 100% virtual, and they will not let their fellows come into the office. So I did FaceTime her and walked her around and introduced her to everyone. So she was happy about that. And then she started collecting. We've been collecting data in earnest over the last week and a half. Thanks to, finance and DPW. We've collected all the Unitil bills. We've collected a lot of the vehicle fuel used from our departments. And she's penning a press release on the inventory this week. So when that gets in a form that we're happy with, we're going to send that out probably next week or so. We're also sending out a survey to all municipal employees, and then we're bantering around whether we should include board members like yourself. And it's just a real short anonymous survey about your commuting habits for the town. Like, how many miles do you drive? Do you always use a car? Do you use, do other alternative modes of transportation? And if so, what percentage? So say you take you do bike to work, is it 10% and so forth? So we can figure out what, how folks are getting to and from to work or volunteer for the municipality. We're batting it around so you might see that survey. And that's where we're at. We're, full bore. It's a 10-week intern or fellowship. It's a 10-week fellowship, but it has 12 weeks to finish. And we're in week 2. So moving right along.
Oh, that is good news. Thank you. Is there a way that I could Zoom and meet her?
Oh, sure. I did. She wants to attend a meeting. The next, if she could attend the next meeting, she'd be happy to. And you can see her and she can be a panelist. She was for the sustainability committee at the last, we introduced her to that. So if that's what you want, or I could do it beforehand, whatever, works for you. If you wanted to, it'll be a month till we meet again. So,
let's see. I don't want her to have to be in on our entire meeting and spend an hour on that. I just want to meet her. I don't know if anybody else wants to meet her, just to see what she looks like and kind of, network with her just a little bit. So it doesn't necessarily have to be inside an energy meeting. Maybe,
if we did it,
is there some other meeting?
We did the Sustainability Advisory Committee. I just had the agenda. I asked the chair and we went first. So we just did that as the first agenda item. We met her and then she signed off.
Good. All right. That's good. How about we do the same thing? We just have her meet her and then, okay.
Perfect. And then she'll have a lot more. We'll have a lot more progress to update you and fill you in at that time. So I think that would be more beneficial because we'll be, pretty much data collection, hopefully, nearing completion, and start thinking strategies to reduce our, carbon footprint.
That's great. That's what I was going to ask about, is if she could do a short update when we met her, since it'd be more than halfway through. But that sounds perfect.
Robin, Amy?
I just wanted to ask, Dave, if you guys are looking at everything before March, are you keeping all your data before Corona?
There'd be no reducing the last few months of energy.
Right.
We picked our baseline year as calendar year 2019.
Oh, okay. So same with if you're doing a survey, basically saying not now, but in the old days, did you used to ride your bike? Yeah. Correct. Okay.
In the before times. Yep. Okay, great. Well, thank you. That is great. All right. So do you have any other comment you'd like to say, Dave, before we move on to the next agenda? Okay.
No, I'm just excited to have her on board. She's been
me
great
too.
so far. So, yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so we're going to move on to the Sustainability Committee update. And last time we spoke about that, Robin had just left the committee. So I wasn't sure who was going to give us an update, or if we just wanted to watch their meetings on Zoom. Or does anybody have any comment on Sustainability Committee update?
I do. I can give you an update because I attend the meetings.
Okay, sure.
At the last meeting, Julie LaBranch and Julie LaBranch from the Rockingham Regional Planning Commission, we were working on a draft situation assessment, which details all of what Exeter has been doing to, develop, to create a more sustainable future, and a needs assessment, which identifies all the things that the Sustainability Advisory Committee could possibly work on. Each of those lists are, 50 or so long. We presented that to the committee, and we asked them to take a month prior to the next meeting, absorb it, and potentially prioritize action items that they will work on out of that. We've already had a few comments from members, so we're gathering comments, and at the next meeting, we're going to have that discussion and hopefully prioritize a few tasks that they can start working and focusing on.
I'd like to watch that. Are the Zoom meetings just online? Like, where are they? Are they under the thing that says agenda and minutes? Is there like a Zoom link, or?
That's my understanding. I mean, Bob can chime in on that if he.
Yeah, there. You can find the information right on the agenda for the meeting. There's usually a link there, or it's on Channel 22, Exeter TV Facebook, or Exeter TV YouTube. So lots of places to watch.
Okay, so for example, for our meetings here, the link that's at the bottom of our agenda here, that not only is the link for people to come in and watch, it's also where the video of this meeting is stored permanently?
So they would have to go to exeternh.gov. It's our website, and they could click watch on demand afterwards, or they can go to our Facebook page or YouTube to find it. That Zoom link is only to access a live meeting. You can't go back and rewatch it at that link.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right, so exeternh.gov?
Just exeternh.tv.
.tv. Okay.
We were able to have people join the meetings and raise their hand, and Bob could call on them in the past. So,
okay.
At the sustainability meetings. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's great. Moving on from that one, so our next meeting is July 8th. Typically, we don't have an August meeting, and I'm not sure if we should not have an August meeting or if Zoom is good. What do you got? Do you want to take a vote on that? Have a Zoom meeting in August, or have our usual recess?
Could be worth meeting to do the aggregation update, but.
All right, so how about we schedule the meeting, and then maybe it's a 30-minute meeting. It's just a quick update. We're all on our porches and we're giving an update. Okay, so that will be the second Wednesday in August, whatever that is. I'll write it on the next agenda. Okay, and we're just about done here. If there's any other things anybody wants to mention. Okay, and Russ, since we have you here, is there anything interesting going on in the town that we should know about that's relevant, or? Your office is still closed?
I think the next interesting stretch here is going to be coming into the 15th of June and the stay-at-home order and so forth. I mean, there were some indicators that the public gathering number would increase, and the numbers put out there were 50, 100, and 500. So we'll see what comes out of that conversation. But the understanding is also, though, that the state of emergency is going to stay in effect for some time into the fall. So it's kind of two branches to the tree, if you will, on how meetings happen and what's going on, because under the state of emergency, there's the virtualization of meetings, and that's likely to continue. So, but we'll keep you posted on all of that, and you'll read more about it as we go too. So that is probably the biggest thing happening at the moment.
Okay, so the town hall is continued to be closed except for employees?
Correct. That is the way we're doing it right now. We are working on an interim plan that's in a draft form to do sort of a phased opening. We've just had to assess a lot of different things in doing that because our building physically isn't set up. In certain places, it's a little bit more challenging. So we've been working on putting in like barriers between, for example, assessing and people and tax and people, and setting it up for social distancing and working on some qualifiers to allow people in the building. But I think as part of our phased opening, I'm giving probably a little preview here, but what we'd be looking to do is continuing to encourage people. We'd open probably the clerk and collector's space first, and then do other departments by appointment, which seems to be the phased opening approach that many are looking at going forward. So we are trying to consciously, and we will be trying to consciously avoid crowds in this building. That's for sure. You know, we want it spaced out as much as we can.
All right, well, that sounds logical. All right, anybody else before we sign off?
One question, I guess, for both the committee and for you, Russ. Lou forwarded to me the New Hampshire Municipal Association's webinar on community power aggregation, which was really good. It was two parts. One was an attorney who sort of specializes in this or is trying to, and a presentation from the Community Power New Hampshire organization itself. What's his first name? Herndon. Henry, his presentation. And you can go back and look at them, look at the presentation itself statically, or you can go look at the whole video, and it's really quite useful. So I wonder, Russ, is that something we should send you to send to the selectmen as in addition to our 2-pager?
Sure, we can do that if it's easily accessible and people can see it and it's out there to just click on. That's also something we can probably put on our website as well, so people can look at it, at their convenience. So, yeah, happy to do that. We can put that on the committee page, or we'll find a space for it that people can access. Okay.
Actually, I have one last thing before we close. I was driving, trying to get my grandson to go to sleep in the car seat, and I drove by the Wigan Memorial Library, and there was a sign outside that said, "The Selectmen, sign up for the Selectmen's e-blast." This is Stratum. Would this be something that Exeter is doing now with COVID, or wants to do? Or I just wanted to suggest to you that I saw that, and if Exeter has sent out one, I would read it. So I just wanted to say that.
I will ask Dave Moore over in Stratum what the background of that is. He's their town administrator, and kind of find out whose job it is to do that. So we'll check that out.
Okay. All right. That's good then.